So she's chatting away. I'm distracting her from the pain in her leg or whatever. And just before I get up to go, she's cancelled the nurse caller because she's feeling a bit better. And then I'd wander away, and then I'd hear her, then she'd press the button again because she'd concentrated on the pain again. And I think that did plant a seed in my mind that, given the right circumstances, we can even take pain away. Physical pain, not just mental pain. That intrigued me. And I think that did inspire me then later on to consider working in mental health. As a young child, I didn't know I was going to be interested in mental health. That I didn't know that would interest me at all. What I wanted to do, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be on the stage. Maybe a stand-up comedian, possibly, but certainly an actor where somebody else has written the words. It's been scripted by somebody else, and if I've got to perform it, it's not my words I'm performing. It's not me you're going to judge. It's them. So I wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
But that takes a lot of confidence. Didn't have it. So thought, okay, maybe I'll be a radio DJ. That interested me. So I thought, I'll get involved in that. And when I was 16, still at school, I joined the local hospital radio station, which is the only place you can really get some experience if you're interested in radio, is hospital radio. And the first thing they did is put me on the wards. Go and chat to people. Go and talk to people. Go and find out what sort of music they liked. So there I was on the wards, age 16, chatting to all these old folk about music from the 1950s and things like that. And I was learning all about what it's like to be a 70-year-old woman. It was really quite interesting. But these people were in pain, they were in hospital. But me sitting down and talking to them, it helped distract them from their pain. I found that if they'd called a nurse caller, this is how I think I really got involved in mental health. They'd call the nurse because they were in a bit of pain. I'd go and sit down next to them because I'd noticed that, they'd press the button, but I knew full well there's not going to be a nurse coming for at least 5 minutes because I look at the time and go, they're on a handover. They're having a cigarette because they did in those days on the ward. Right. The door was shut, but those nurses are having a cigarette. I thought I'll go and sit with this old lady and see what's going on before the nurses come. And we just chat, just talked. Hello again, Ethel. I noticed you pulled you pressed the button there for the nurse there. What's going on? How are you doing? Oh, I'm just struggling a little bit. Oh, okay, that's fine. So we sit and chat. Tell me again about that granddaughter you were telling me about, what she was doing at school last week. Oh, yes, she was in this pantomime. It was lovely. So she's chatting away. I'm distracting her from the pain in her leg or whatever. And just before I get up to go, she's cancelled the nurse caller because she's feeling a bit better. And then I'd wander away, and then I'd hear her, then she'd press the button again because she'd concentrated on the pain again. And I think that did plant a seed in my mind that, given the right circumstances, we can even take pain away. Physical pain, not just mental pain. That intrigued me. And I think that did inspire me then later on to consider working in mental health, especially when I first trained, which was as a hypnotherapist. And I know exactly how that happened. That was bizarre. This was the year 2000. I just moved house and we got the internet plugged in. I thought, right, I'm going to have a play on the internet. Like you do in those days. I'm just going to ask a question to Yahoo. What shall I ask? And I asked, how does hypnosis work? I was bored. How does hypnosis work? And it came up with these articles and people talking about the science behind it and the state versus non-state. Is it real? Is it just a series of expectations? It was quite interesting. But then for a week, all I get is adverts down the side of my Yahoo stream for colleges teaching you how to be a hypnotherapist. And it rang a bell. It was like, oh, wow. This ticks every single box. By this point, I'm 23, 24.
Okay.
Ticks every single box. I've spent all my childhood wanting to work in something to do with audio, and then getting interested in people at the same time. And then this college course pops up that says, you can train as a hypnotherapist if you like, and you can help people quit smoking, help people lose weight, help people with their nerves, with some anxiety issues, their phobias. This is a career for you if you want it. It's like, blang, the bell rang. I was like, I've got to train in this. This is fascinating. And that led me further down the path of mental health, and then I became a psychotherapist a few years later with some extra training, and never looked back. Absolutely never looked back. And now I think I combine, my life certainly combines all those original interests. I
Mm-hmm.
work in amateur. I help run an amateur dramatics company. I have a podcast, so I'm both an actor and not a DJ because I don't work with music, but I do play around with audio. I'm playing around
Right,
with
right.
all this stuff, so I'm getting all those needs met, and at the same time helping people, which is the box I deep down
Beautiful.
desperate to tick. So
Yes.
things have
No,
things have fell together nicely now. They really have.
no, that's awesome how that happens though. And that was really interesting the way you told that story. Like starting from you seemingly just trying to help someone out, and then it piqued your curiosity, and then you wanting to do some searching on your own, and then getting advertisements doing what they do
Yeah,
to follow up with you basically on what you're looking at.
yeah. All the
I think
complaints that
that's
people
really
might
amazing.
have about targeted adverts and
Yeah.
and rejecting cookies and things like that. And he's like, actually, maybe sometimes we do want to be targeted
Could
with
be
the right
beneficial.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, stuff like you said, stuff that you were already interested in, stuff that you were already looking at,
yeah,
and yeah, that gave you more information to want to pursue, traditional study in
yeah.
that field, which is awesome. I think that, especially when it comes to the field, right? I'm always curious, genuinely, how we get started, because for so many of us, we have all these different stories of why we choose to do this type of work, and then which we'll get into in a little bit, but not even considering the fact that we're men, and we know that traditionally those are not typical career paths, we would say, that men would
Mm,
choose. Like even the fact that you said that you
yeah,
wanted to listen, right? You wanted to be a good listener, you wanted to support this person, you helped alleviate her pain for a period of time where you were physically present, and
yeah.
and that motivated you.
I'm remembering being 15, and back in those days, I don't know whether it happens anymore. I don't think it happened to my son, who's a little older than that. When he was 15, this didn't happen, I'm sure. We used to get careers advisors coming to the school, and they'd look at your predicted grades, and they go, right,
Mm,
let's see if we can match you up with a career.
right,
They'd
right.
already, this was a working class town. They'd already made their mind up beforehand what these
Okay.
pupils were going to be like. So when this woman sat in front of me and said, so let's have a look here, you're doing reasonably well in languages, you're doing okay in sciences, is there anything in particular that you're interested in? And I said, well, actually, yeah, I want to work, I'd love to be an actor, I'd love to figure out how to make that happen. She just went, no. It's just no, no, not going to do that. Think realistically. What else
Yeah.
do you want to do? I said, well, maybe I'd like to work in radio. I think radio would be really interesting. I love people. I love words.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, it's just a dream. What else? Just discount that. Don't even bother. What do you want? What else do you want to do? And I do remember saying, I don't really know where this came from, but I said, I'm quite interested in social work. I
Mm.
think even at that age 15, I was interested in helping people. And she said, no. She said, don't even bother. Don't do that. It's a
Wow.
thankless job. Nobody enjoys that job. You'll have no satisfaction. It's a thankless job. Everybody hates social workers. You'll get nothing but trouble. So let's have a look again. So you're doing quite well in science. You're doing well in languages. So we're looking at something to do with science and languages, aren't we? She'd already made her mind up before she'd even walked into the room what
Yeah.
she thought I was going to do. And I think those expectations that other people have, they can
Yes.
really influence if you're not, because it did influence me. I then had nothing to do with acting, radio. Well, I did have a bit to do with radio because I joined the hospital radio service. I wasn't going to say no, but I did kind of walk away from the idea of being a social worker. She kicked it out of me with just a handful of
Yeah.
words. That's a real shame.
It
Although,
is.
right place at the right time, maybe. But here's me saying it didn't do me any harm in the end because I was in my mid-20s when I was training.
Right.
So that's still quite young to be a therapist. I meet lots of people training now, they're in their 40s or 50s.
Right.
And maybe I did need to be older. Either way, these are the cards I was dealt, and I've took every opportunity to be who I want to be congruent with my values.
Yes. See, that's so important what you're saying though. Like I want to emphasize that point, because when you were first starting to describe that, you were reminding me, in the States we do something similar. I'm not sure exactly how it is today in high school, because I haven't been in high school in a little while, but when I was going through it, you had they would call a career counselor. Sometimes it was the school counselor or the guidance counselor of that school that you went to, and they would bring in, people from different schools or other professionals from like trade schools, things that you do like an apprenticeship for that you don't necessarily go to college directly for. And you're right, though. I definitively remember getting certain feedback, even if you had a different idea in your mind of what you wanted to pursue, and being steered away from that. To your point, though, and I actually would say I think that is troubling, because I'm not saying that we should be unrealistic, right? So let's say, for example, because I used to be an advisor in higher education at university. Let's say, for example, you want to be a doctor or you want to be an engineer. If you want to be an engineer, but you're weak in your math subject and you have no desire to do that work, I'm not going to get good conscience suggest that you continue pursuing engineering, because you have to get through so much of it, because it's the foundation to build up and do the more difficult work. If you want to be a medical doctor, you have to have a strong foundation in the life sciences, your biologies, your chemistries, a fair amount of physics, and some math in anatomy. If you have no interest in really focusing on that area, you probably aren't going to get into med school. So I'm not going to, in good conscience, advise that you continue, right? Because you might get really discouraged and just give up. I'd rather you find out what you really want, pursue that, than just walk away and do nothing, right?
Yeah.
That's very different than what you just said, though. Oh, I'm thinking about doing this. No. You don't want to do that. That's a thankless job. Well, that's your perception. So you're impressing that upon me, which is not really fair. Even if you say it's thankless, okay. Some people say teaching's a thankless job, right? And we know, we'll talk about in a little bit. I know in America, mental health professionals aren't, unless you're maybe a psychiatrist, you're not necessarily as respected as some of our other peers in the health fields. And we're not historically compensated as well as other health professionals are, even though we have to get graduate education to do the type of work that we do. You need at least a master's degree to practice independently. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's in every state. So to not have those things and still be looked at in that particular way, I think that's very unfair to impress that upon a young person who may genuinely be interested. So that's one thing I definitely try to tackle on this platform, is helping people to see like, hey, you can live comfortably doing this type of work. You can have impact. You can live with purpose. I think those are important values. I mean, they're certainly important to me. And I think they would resonate with other people, to not discourage them very early on from pursuing this type of work. Because you and I both know there's not enough young men and then men that even go into this field. So to be discouraged from such a young age, I think is really not benefiting us as a society, because we're really just making it essentially a female-led and female-dominated field. So it can kind of discourage men from seeking out help.